I remember this quite clearly. I open up Ableton Live for the first time, and within about 10 seconds, I shut the program and walk away from the computer. I do this about 10 more times before I even get to making a sound. For me, it was overwhelming. I remember it being pretty frustrating because I knew I wanted to get into it, but I just didn't really know the barrier to breakthrough. When we're starting music production, we probably think about the more technical side of things, but you are going to be faced with challenges along the way. And I think it's important to have some mental tools in place to be able to deal with it as it comes. So that brings me to the topic of this video. We're going to have a look at getting started with music production, but from a psychological standpoint. Getting started with music production is as much about technical knowledge as it is about a mindset. My goal for this video is to get you to think about the reason why you want to start making music. And hopefully by the end of this, you can walk away with a good mindset to approach that process. Although what I'm about to talk about might seem a bit cliche or wishy-washy, I promise you that if you take a good mindset into starting music production, you will be ready to face those challenges as it comes, and you can just spend more time enjoying the process. Music is art, and for me, music is a deeply personal expression of emotions. Because of that, it's easy to get emotionally compromised by the process. The good news is that the sky up there is always blue. So it's about learning how to navigate those clouds. And I think the key to that is understanding why you're making music. So ask yourself, why do you want to do this? There's no right or wrong answers here. For me, I was just so intensely drawn to a DAW when I was shown one for the first time. I slowly realized the more I did it that I just wanted to do more of it. So it was an easy choice for me. I knew that I wanted to make a living off my art. The why is important because it serves as an anchoring point for your journey through this whole thing. It's also going to help you navigate your learning process. Let's just say that you want to form a new hobby and making music is that hobby. That's easy for you. You just spend the time learning the program and just enjoy the process as it happens. Let's just say that your goal is to make a living from this. There's going to be a few steps involved in reaching that goal. And that sort of leads me to the next point that I want to talk about, which is this whole thing can be really overwhelming. Opening a digital audio workstation for the first time is full on. This could be one of the most overwhelming parts of the whole process, is just getting started. So, how do you deal with that? The solution is quite simple, really. It's just acknowledging that you are starting. I know it sounds kind of wishy-washy, but just back yourself in on this one. It makes it a lot easier coming to terms with what you're feeling rather than just pushing on. Compartmentalizing your goals is going to make the whole thing feel a lot less overwhelming and a lot more surmountable. Let's just use the example from before. Let's say that you want to release music on a record label. There's going to be a few steps to that. Learning how to use the program, learning how to arrange music, learning how to mix music, and then roughly learning how to master your own music. Let's break that down into steps. First, you're going to need to pick a program to use. I chose Ableton Live. I started on FL Studio, but I found my way to Ableton. That's just what works best for me. So it's worth finding the piece of software that you like the best. Once you've selected your digital audio workstation, it's then just about putting the time in to learn the program. That means working out how to get the best workflow going with that program. This is probably going to be the most time-consuming part of this whole thing, but I think it's really important to allow yourself that time. Do this until you feel really comfortable, like you know how to generate ideas. I'm not talking about finishing a whole track, but just being comfortable with the program. Arrangement is forming your ideas into something that makes musical sense. Again, this is going to take time and practice. There's lots of awesome reference material out there, literally every song that's ever been published. The third part of this whole process would be learning how to mix. You're probably getting the impression right now that all of these three things I've already mentioned are quite major and time consuming, and that's because they are. Self-doubt is something I'm sure we've all faced many times in life, and it's a part of making music as well. It can be pretty mentally crippling to have these sorts of feelings. How to deal with that feeling leads me to one of the most important messages of this video, and that is the art of self-care. Be kind to yourself. This phrase really helped me not just in general with life, but with music. I'm not immune to the pressures of this whole thing. I get stuck sometimes and get in mental ditches myself, but I always come back to the idea of being kind to myself. It just means that I'm not going to beat myself over something that's not worth beating myself up over. For example, it could be your song's just not translating that well, or you're just struggling to get your ideas down. Or maybe you're just having a creative rut in general and you literally can't make anything. Is it worth beating yourself up over that? No, I don't think so. In this context, you're starting. So if you are getting frustrated, then just remind yourself that you are just starting. You're allowing yourself the time and the space to be a beginner in this thing. And so you shouldn't feel the need to get frustrated about that. So I want to wrap this thing up with a couple of tips on how to manage self-doubt if it does come, and then a couple of questions that you can reflect upon in your own time. So this one seems pretty simple. It's writing down your goals and ideas. This is good for a couple of reasons. Firstly, it's something to refer back to if you ever get stuck in the mud. You go back to what you've written down and just remind yourself of what you set out to do in the first place. Secondly, your brain is really, really good at achieving goals once the instruction's been given, and you give that instruction by writing out your ideas and goals. Secondly, I highly recommend taking breaks. Even if you're in the flow of things, it's good to pause, go outside, take a little walk, enjoy a few deep breaths, and your ears will probably enjoy the rest as well. Have an alternative plan to being productive. What I mean by that is, let's just say that you're doing one task, but you're not feeling it or it's not working out. You could be playing around on Ableton, and if that's not working, then maybe you just turn to educating yourself further on the program. One thing to ask yourself is, are you ready to embrace imperfection? What you create isn't going to please everyone, and really, that's okay. I believe that your art only needs to be enjoyed by one person, and that's you. It's just a bonus if others enjoy it along the way as well. What others think about what you create is actually none of our business or in your control, so there's no real point worrying about it. What is in your control is deciding if you like what you're doing or not, and if you're being authentic to your ideas. This leads to the idea of feedback. Feedback is an awesome way to learn and improve so long as you're getting it from people whose opinion you trust. At points in time, you might be told something that you don't enjoy, but that's just sort of a part of learning. You need to open up yourself to that sort of feedback so that you can take the opportunity to learn from it. Reflect upon the amount of time you're willing to put into this, and ask yourself if you're okay with not seeing results immediately. If you place unnecessary expectations on yourself, you're sort of setting yourself up for failure. As I've said on the video before, if you understand it's going to take time and you're okay with that, then the process will take as much time as it needs, and you won't feel the pressure to rush through anything to achieve a goal. The last thing I want to mention is the idea of rejection. It's something that you will face. Rejection is an opportunity to understand why something didn't happen. So thanks for watching. I really hope you do take the dive in and start music production, and that this whole chat hasn't really put you off from doing that. Really what you're committing to is learning an act of deep self-expression, and it's something that I couldn't encourage more. So good luck with it, and we'll see you next time.